What is up, fight fans? I am Jason BURGOS for Sherdog.com, and my guest is a man viewed as a major talent to watch in the Bellator middleweight division. However, he has not been busy of late fighting in a cage. Instead, he's been doing a lot of grappling in a cage, and he will do so again on May 31st at Submission Underground 14, where he will face off with another SUG vet in Gabriel Checco, and that man is the gentleman, aka Austin Vanderford. Mr. Gentleman, sir, thank you for the time to talk SUG and some Bellator.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me on.
So this will be your fourth appearance with Submission Underground, and when I reached out about interviews for this event coming up, you were mentioned as the new it guy for SUG. Talk to me about working with them and why you will be competing for them for the third time in the last 4 months.
Yeah, so it's a really cool, promotion that Chael puts on, and of course I got a good connection with Chael, former training partner and just friend, and yeah, he offered me. I think the very first match I ever got offered was Jake Shields, and I jumped right on it, and it's just a fun way for me to continue to compete, and with everything going on right now. I'm looking for any way to compete and all that, and that's why you've seen me in there so much. And thankfully, I've gone out and done my job and picked up some good wins, and people want to continue to watch me and all that. So it's just been working out.
There is like a serious industry now centered around grappling. And that's not to say there wasn't before, but there's just more attention on it and money to be made in it with like SUG, Quintet, EBI, ADCC, all those various things. Considering your strong wrestling background, if there was just a little bit more money in this industry, would you rather do grappling for a living, or has this addiction that you told me about all the way in February, this addiction now you have for MMA, has that taken more of a hold and it's really hooked you in and you enjoyed that challenge, that new challenge of MMA more than even wrestling was?
Yeah, I enjoy MMA the most. I haven't changed up my training whatsoever for this. First and foremost, I'm an MMA fighter, and like today, for example, I did strength and conditioning, and I'm gonna do some bag work and stuff like that later. So, yeah, but that's not to say I don't love jujitsu and grappling. I actually plan on competing or going to the ADCC trials in November and trying my hand at that as well. And just staying active for me is the biggest thing. If bare knuckle boxing was the only thing that we could do right now, I'd be doing that. So it's just staying active and being ready, and I want to be one of the first guys ready for Bellator to be able to call up and say, hey, get ready for a fight, next week or 2 weeks or whatever that timeline is.
And I'm glad you brought up the training, and that's interesting that things haven't changed too much, even though you're doing a grappling focused competition coming up. So what is your your regimen going into a specific thing like this? Are you just kind of like, are you watching tape? Do you go to YouTube? Are you looking at Gabriel's old videos? Are you trying to get an idea about him with your coach or anything like that? Or are you pretty much doing a lot of rolling, just staying sharp along with staying sharp in the striking, all those kind of thing, and not really doing any kind of Gabriel Checco focused training?
Yeah, I'd say more of that, and that's not that's no knock on Gabriel. I think he's a super talented and respected guy in itself. But I mean, the same thing was with Boogeyman, and we all know how good and how his reputation and whatnot. I go in there and I guess people just don't really know about me yet, and my game plan is just to go and do what I do and try to impose my will. And of course there's some strategy and we work a little bit, but for the most part, Saturday is hard sparring day. Wednesday small glove sparring. I got striking on Mondays, and I just kind of stick to my regular routine, which is fairly grappling heavy as it is. I'd say I probably grapple every day anyway. So, it's not really added anything to that. You know, we might do some extra overtime rule or overtime rounds at the end of training and whatnot. But I'm very fortunate just to have a lot of really good and experienced high level jiu-jitsu guys that I train with, and that's kind of helped mold me and get me ready for these competitions.
Now, and you mentioned earlier, your relationship with Chael. Chael is a fantastic salesman, and he's not above selling someone else. So that you didn't want to take away anything away from Gabriel. I'd like you to sell me on Gabriel Checco, because I know you feel people don't know you. I know you. I think anybody who watches SUG now knows you. You've been dominating. The only person to beat you was Jake Shields. So sell me on why Gabriel Checco's a threat. Why does he have a chance to beat the SUG it guy?
Yeah, he's competed in a lot. He's a black belt, in his own right. I think he owns his own school in Las Vegas, if I'm not mistaken. He's a vet as well. I don't believe he's ever lost at SUG. I actually, the first time I ever saw him was, gosh, I can't remember what the competition was, but I watched it because my wife was commentating for it, and it was kind of like one of the quintet deals or whatever, and like I said, I can't really remember what it was called. Kinetic. So it was she's in the background. She helped me out. So that was actually the first time I ever had seen him, and I had watched him. I was like, man, this guy's aggressive. I like aggressive. That's kind of my style. And he was on like the Brazilian team or whatever, and they had a strong squad. So he's tough. I believe Chael was the one who put that Brazilian team together. And Chael handpicked him himself, so I think Chael's got an eye for talent, and he, Chael knows what's up. So I just figured, if Chael wants him on his team and feels confident, then he must be a good competitor.
Now, I'm sure once you get back to your Bellator work, I mean, your relationship with the SUG will continue, and you'll do more events and stuff like that, and your name will continue to grow. If you had, though, like a top 3 dream opponents you would love to face in a grappling match there for them, who would it be? Are there 3 people that you really, really admire that if you can get into a grappling duel with them, you'd love the opportunity?
Yeah, I think more than anything, I'm trying to build my name up, and I love competing against guys who have kind of made a name for themselves, whether that's a current UFC fighter or someone like Craig Jones, and I feel like I'm still growing, and the EBI rules. My very first match was against Jake, and I didn't really go into it like. I went into it thinking, all right, we got a 5-minute roll, and I know what the overtime rules are, but there's some strategy that goes into everything. If I'm gonna be completely honest, I don't even really know a bunch of the jiu-jitsu names and the big names and whatever. And again, no knock on the boogeyman. Me beating him, I didn't understand or realize how big of a deal I guess it was. And until people afterwards like, man, you submit the boogeyman and all that. And to me, he's another competitor, and he's a high level guy, and I just want to continue to do that. And I want to test myself with the best guys in the world, the Lovato Juniors, the Craig Jones, all those guys. So sorry I didn't give you kind of the answer you wanted, but I think you kind of catch what I'm saying. I just want to compete against the best.
Well, this makes the next question interesting, because the next question was going to be if you could put together like a quintet super team of people, who would it be? And let's take away like close friends, but maybe you don't know all the deep underground big names in jiu-jitsu, but I have no doubt there's a lot of grapplers either from wrestling or even in MMA that you have a lot of respect for and stuff like that. So if you could put together a quintet team of 5, including yourself, who would be like? It could even be retired fighters, like even retired wrestlers. Who would it be? Your Austin Vanderford super team.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think first and foremost would be Craig Jones. He's he's kind of the guy, and he's a tough guy to beat. No, Craig, actually one of my teammates who I personally feel is possibly the best guy I've ever rolled with in Brent Primus. And
I just talked to
don't,
Brent too.
yeah, and I don't know how many people really. I know people have seen his grappling in Bellator fights, but Brent's the man. He's very tough, and I'm excited. I've been telling him, I was like, man, you gotta get on one of these, dude. You're so good. And, it's just funny coming from purple belt telling a black belt. But so definitely those two, man. And if gosh, I gotta come Michael Perez, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've trained. He's came and trained here a couple times, and he's a cool guy. I think he's really good too. Really talented guy. And man, who would be another one? Gosh, you kind of put me on the spot with it. Trying to think of some good grapplers. Oh, my professor Fabiano Schirner for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I think we'd round the team off with him, and we'd have a strong team.
Now, let's move on to Bellator conversation. Are you glad, Bellator has not put you in a position to choose, to that tough decision to take a fight or not to take a fight during a pandemic, and they are instead kind of waiting until June and July to maybe get something going? Or on a level, are you kind of a little bit jealous of UFC fighters, including your wife, who have fights booked and will be able to get those paydays and those fight purses coming up soon?
Yeah, I completely respect like what Bellator is doing and stuff, but I am jealous for sure. I want to be fighting, and I think me competing and doing these SUG matches kind of shows where what I would be doing if I had the choice right now, and it would definitely be fighting. I was supposed to fight. I technically was supposed to fight May 16th. I had signed a contract and all that, and it was over in London, but unfortunately that got scrapped, and yeah, so I do wish that Bellator was up and going right now, and on the other hand, I understand everything and get all that, but I can't wait to fight again, man. I'm so excited. Like, I'm so genuine when I say, if Bellator announced like, hey, we got a card next week, who's ready? I would be the first one to raise my hand and jump in there.
What do you feel needs to be like the next progression for you in Bellator? You had a 3-fight 2019. You competed against guys with a similar kind of experience level. Do you think 2020 needs to be like getting some veterans like that guy, like 20, 30 fights, and be tested as only veterans can really test a fighter? And like 2020 is about getting into the top of the divisions to set you up for like title contention in 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of the next progression, and that is what the progression is. I can't say who I was gonna fight, but it's definitely what my next opponent was, and going on like that. And Bellator's done a really good job at building me up and getting me ready and all that. And I feel confident that when my opportunity comes, I'm going to perform well, and I'm going to, I wholeheartedly believe that I'm going to be the middleweight champion for Bellator, and yeah, and I hope it's sooner than later for sure.
Now, since you can't mention it, which hurts my heart a little bit that you can't mention the opponent, is the opponent? Is that why? Like, have there been assurances from Bellator, like, you will still fight this guy? We're just gonna have to put it in a different, month or event. Is that why you can't say too much? Because the plan is to still do this same booking you had for May 16.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's so many moving parts, and without even knowing a concrete time of when Bellator can get going again, I don't think it's really fair to say anything on that. It's tough. There's a lot of restrictions and all that in the world right now, and each day we find out something new, and everything like that. So it really it doesn't have anything to do with anything like that, and I don't really know if I will have the same opponent or not. I don't know if that's even possible, or what the deal will be. A lot of guys have sign contracts for so many fights and this amount of time, and become free agents if they don't get those fights in. And so there's a lot of moving parts, so it's hard to say.
Women have competed for Submission Underground in the past, but not often. Would you love to be on a card with your wife Paige together? Maybe tag team grappling match against another couple. Maybe Paige and Austin versus Misha Tate and Johnny Nunez.
Yeah, I think she had the opportunity to grapple, and really our main focus is her fighting and being healthy and getting this fight taken care of, and she's got a good opponent, and she's my wife is really putting in the work and working harder than I can say I've ever seen her worked, and she's very motivated, and yeah, so we would love to. I think we more think along the lines of we'd love to fight on the same card together. We're MMA fighters, and that's first and foremost. So we would love to fight on the same card, but it'd be fun to compete together as well. I don't necessarily know about the tag team thing as much. We're both very competitive, and not that the tag team thing takes away the competitiveness, but it's a little more for fun. I think both of us have the mindset. We go in there to hurt somebody and really get down like that. So it's I don't know if the tag team thing's really up our alley.